Hello and welcome back once again, you lovely lot. Today we're stepping back into the wonderful world of Dark Souls 1 and swimming deep into the sewers to uncover this mouthy monster. It is of course one of the coolest looking bosses around. It's the Gaping Dragon.
And engage in jolly cooperation.
This is one of the many Mega Boss expansions from the board game, and I'm yet to try this one out because I wanted to wait until it's painted until I use it. As like with any of the other Mega Bosses in this game, it comes with its own playing area, its own effect tokens, and of course its health dials. Now this is one of the largest models that Steamforged have released, so it's come in a few different parts that need to be assembled. We've got these lovely little arms here, give them a wave. So these little fellas just slot into the sides of the body here. And the wings fit in the slots in and around the back of the model. However, they do take some refining to get them fitting nice and snug, as there are a couple of little ridges that prevent them from fitting in smoothly. So what I'm doing is just taking my small hobby knife and I'm just trimming down some of the edges so that I can get them down to size so they fit nice and snug. The tail sits in nicely on his butt and it should slot in quite easily. Calm down guys, come on, grow up. Now the other two wings sit below the higher wings, and again they need some more careful refining just to trim the edges down to size, getting them fitting all good and proper in the slots behind. So this is how the big sweaty Betty looks after it's all put together. Pretty epic. And with all the parts in place, I'm just going back through them all and getting them all glued into place before we prime this beast. This is the ultimate praise the sun pose, and I'm not going to hear any other arguments about it. So I'm just off to get this big boy primed and I'll be right back. Job jobbed. Gotta caffeinate yourself up before doing this mega boss, gang. Now my plan here is to zenithal highlight it with some white ink and use some of the new darker brown contrast paints that I got for the scales, and then give some real brightness to the mouth, which is the sort of centerpiece of the model, and add some of the more awesome drool effects which I've done a few times before. Let's get highlighting. So here I'm loading up some titanium white ink from Liquitex inks into my airbrush, and from some high angles above I'll be hitting the body with bursts of white ink, focusing more of the concentrated bursts on the higher upper parts of the body, allowing the ink to spill across and fade out the further it goes down the body to generate that blend between light and dark. Another job jobbed. Time to test out the new browns I got. Now which one to go for? This one. So this is Garaghax. I'm probably going to get slaughtered for my pronunciation of these paints, but this is Garaghax Sewer, which is the lighter of the two contrast paints that I've purchased. And you might be wondering to yourself, did I buy this paint because it had sewer in the name? Bet your ass I did. I'm a simple man. With this sewer bin juice, I'm just spraying thin layers all over the body, covering the white and adding some extra layers to the darker areas for more contrast. For some darker browns, I'm using my other brown contrast, which is a lot darker. It's called Rattling Grime. And with this grime, I'm just using it to target the shadowy areas to generate some stronger darker tones without it being fully black, because for this next step, I'm using pure carbon black ink. And with this, I'm just targeting even smaller areas to create even stronger shadows around the body. Focusing on areas like the armpits, the knee pits, wing pits, you get it. Next step is for this whopping great mouth, and to get started on this I'm just using some Wordbearer's red as the base, as it's a darker tone of red closer to a sort of burgundy pigment, and with that I'm coating the entire section of the mouth. Whilst doing this I have accidentally covered some of the teeth in the red, but to be honest I kinda like how that looks, so that might be a method I apply later on. Then once the base coat is on, I'm adding in highlights to the centre of the mouth with some Mephiston red. So it has the brightest point in the centre and gradually blends out to the previous colour we had applied. For the wings, I kind of want a reddish tint to them, so I'm kind of thinking of some Flesh Tearer's red contrast could sit quite nicely over the highlighting we already have. So with this red contrast paint, I'm applying it over the wings, leaving the bone parts clear of any red, focusing mainly on covering the lighter parts with it, because we will be blending down to some darker tones the further it goes down the wing to make up some of the contrast. I will be doing this across all four of the wings and on both sides of each wing as well. Now I want to bring back some of the darkness back into the wings before moving on, so with some carbon black dropped into the red with around a sort of 60% black, 40% red, I'm applying this darker shade to lower areas. And with the Justin Hawkins darkness added back into the wings, I'm creating a bit more of a red variation on the lighter parts of red with some corn red targeting the highlight areas, and also mixing in some titanium white ink to that so it adds even brighter tones to it. Then, with the wings done, it's time for his big old chompers. There are dozens of teeth in this creature's mouth, so it's a bit of a task to do, but what I'm doing is base coating all of them with some Corax white, which will act as our brightest point of the teeth, and we'll be adding in some darker tones the further we move down each tooth. This kind of makes me feel like a dentist. Say ah! With the teeth all pearly whited up, it's time to mess them up and darken them down. Because this fella has eaten way too many people and not flossed often enough. Gulp that stanky ass moaning breath. So to start, we're adding some more cast bone and blending from the bottom of each tooth up into the white until we get a good smooth transition. Then for the darker tones, I'm adding in some Mournfang brown and doing a sort of 50-50 mix between the brown and the more cast bone. And then once done with the mixed colour, I'm just adding some pure brown onto the base of each tooth, and we should get some big old plaque-ridden gnashes. So with the teeth done, the next step for me is to repeat this exact same method we've done for the teeth and apply it across all the little bone parts of the model, which will be all the little talons at the end of each wing and the claws on its feet. Next up, I wanted to try out some of this Sterlen Battlemire from Games Workshop, which is a technical paint that's supposed to replicate mud. So all I'm doing is I'm just using a cheap brush I have lying around and just slapping a load of it all over the base, building up some random clumps for random variation across it. As I mentioned earlier, I quite liked it when I applied the Wordbearer's red to the mouth and some of the spray ended up on the inner teeth. So I'm just going back over it with some Pyrrole red ink and hitting the centre of the mouth for some more vibrancy and allowing it to catch on the teeth a bit. It kind of makes it look like there's a strong light reflection bouncing off from the mouth and onto the teeth around it, which I think is actually quite a cool looking effect. So for the final step of the model, I want to create some gross looking saliva stretching across the jaws. If you've seen any of my other previous videos, chances are you've seen me go on and on about this technique because I absolutely love it. I think it really adds a lot to a model and makes it really stand out. For it, you only need 3 things: UV resin, a UV torch, and some fine fishing wire. Then all you have to do is cut the fishing wire to size for each strand to sit between the teeth. And once cut, I dip the first end in some UV resin, get it into position, then shine the UV light from the torch onto the resin, and it should dry up super quick. Then do the same with the other end, get it stuck down to the other side with more resin, and cure it with the light. Once done, I then drop little bits of resin onto the wire, little bits at a time, and cure it, and repeat until I'm happy with how it looks. It's also good to add strands to strands, as if they were sort of splitting off from each other, so it's not all totally uniform going from side to side. Also good to add in some variation to angles and directions to make it look a bit more random as well. It is a good idea to wear gloves when using this UV resin, just in case you get an allergic reaction to it or anything. Safety guidelines are always wise to follow. Whenever doing this, I always recommend having an open window or something, because it can smell quite strong when you're close to it and breathing it in. So that should about do it for now. We've got the drool added in, we've got it painted, we've got the mouth popping, so let's do a little spin around and see how it's all come along. Oh, what a lovely little pretty chap it is. It could single-handedly support the entire toothpaste industry if it wanted. Well, that will about do it from me. Thanks for joining me as I play doctors and dentists with this big old chomper. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the repainting series that I'm releasing every Sunday for a chance to win a brand new main set of the board game, fully painted by yours truly. The first episode came out last Sunday with Ornstein and Smaug, so be sure to go and check that out. As ever, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, hit the like button and drop me a comment below and backstab that subscribe button like a champ. If you have made your own gaping dragon already, I'd love to see it. Send on over any pictures you have to me on the Instagram channel. Peace out guys, and until next time, don't you dare go hollow.